Hello and welcome. So today I want to answer a question that was asked by a gentleman by the name of Calvin Heppel. He said, would you please tell me your top 10 favorite books, magic books of all time? Top 10 favorite. Very challenging. I had to do a lot of thinking about it because, generally speaking, my favorite magic book is the book I'm reading right now. I love magic books so much, whether they're histories or biographies or books about magic. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever book I'm currently reading is generally my favorite book. So I had to think. I had to go back and think. Now, what are the 10 best? I'm going to start out by violating the general principle. I have 9 things to show you. There are 10 things to show you. One of them is a DVD series. I don't like to do that. I wanted to give you 10 books, but if I didn't do this, it has been one of the most influential media products that I've ever encountered. Let me start with that. Right here, Richard Osterlund. The first series I ever purchased from Richard were the Easy to Master Mental Miracle series. Let me give you some context for this. I've been doing a Grand Illusion show for 10 years. I had an assistant that I worked with. Her name was Jill Kennard. She's gotten married. She's gone off and had kids. Her kids are now grown. This year they were graduating from high school. That's how long it's been since we worked together. But we worked together for 10 years before she got married and started her own family. And we had an illusion show that kept getting bigger and bigger. We kept getting bigger trucks to transport it in. We weren't doing that many shows. I wasn't making a living, but I was loving what I was doing. I loved doing the Grand Illusion show. She left the show, and I had to stop and think, now what am I going to do? Prior to the Grand Illusion show, I'd been doing birthday parties and events and traditional magic in that context. But when I started in magic, I had a fascination with the mental side of it, with mentalism and mind reading. I'd always liked it. I remember going to Phil Thomas. Now, Phil Thomas was my mentor when I was a child. I started going to the Yogi Magic Mart when I was 8. I went to the Yogi Magic Mart straight on through my 20s. And Phil was my mentor and friend. And Phil used to say to me, David, you can't do mentalism when you're a kid. Nobody will give you any credibility as a kid. So he encouraged me to put it on the shelf, come back to it later. I didn't pursue mentalism, even though I was fascinated with it back then. I did traditional magic. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that Phil Thomas told me to read that were very important. But anyway, so here we are. I guess the year is 1998. I guess it's 1998. Jill has decided to leave the show. And I have to do something different. So my first thought was I'm going to replace Jill. So I ran ads in the newspaper. I ran ads in the local community papers. I was trying to attract someone into the show. I interviewed. I had people expressing an interest. I even worked with a couple of people in rehearsal to try to get them ready. Nothing worked. It just wasn't coming together. And then I made the decision, I'm old enough, according to Phil Thomas, and I'm not even sure it's true. I have seen children doing mentalism, and they do it well, okay? So I'm not sure I agree with Phil, but he was my mentor at the time, and whatever he said was gospel to me, so I just went along with it. But here I am, 1998, been doing an illusion show for 10 years. My assistant, my partner, leaves the show. I have to decide what direction am I going to go in. I make the decision that now finally I'm going to pursue mentalism. And I started reading. I'm going to share with you 13 Steps. I read Practical Mental Effects. I read all of the traditional first beginner books for mentalists. But I also picked up this series, Easy to Master Mental Miracles. It's a series of 4 DVDs. And I watched Richard Osterlund perform. Now, if you are interested in mental magic, and by the way, the series by L&L Publishing, Easy to Master, that series. If you are a card person, Michael Lamar has a series called Easy to Master Card Effects or Card Magic. And there's like 20 volumes in that set. I have that set. You should definitely pick that up if you're a card person. If you're a close-up performer, Di Vernon has a series called Revelations. You should pick that up if that's your emphasis. If you're a coin person, I think David Roth and even Michael Lamar has a series, Easy to Master Money Magic. So the Easy to Master series is phenomenal. And L&L has also done World's Greatest Magic, that series. So you can pick and choose what you're interested in, whether it's cups and balls or linking rings or the color-changing knives. You can pick it up, and what you're getting in the World's Greatest Magic series is literally the world's greatest magicians, usually 5 or 6 of them on a single DVD, presenting the same effect from their perspective. So I even though I'm a proponent of books, just like all magicians are, and just like all dealers are, I think that is your best investment. The DVDs and the video learning should not be overlooked, no matter what your specialty is. My specialty happens to be mental magic or mentalism. And so I found these to be completely invaluable. They just, if you asked me what are your top 10 recommendations and I didn't say this, I'd be making a huge mistake. Now today you also have available to you the Penguin Lecture Series. And check that out, because you get the world's greatest magicians presenting their greatest material to you, and you need to avail yourself of that. The problem with DVD learning, the problem with video learning, is the tendency to imitate the performer. What you should do when you do video learning, you should observe the effect, observe how it's performed, pay attention to the explanation, and then find a way to integrate that into your personality and put your personal stamp on it. Never do the exact presentation you see someone else do. It doesn't challenge you creatively. You become a clone of somebody else. That's the problem with video learning. With books, it's a whole different story, because you're getting an effect, you're getting an explanation, and you almost have to put your stamp on it, which is why most dealers and most magicians tell you to read books, because you have to put your personal stamp on it. But first of all, I want to go ahead and recommend this series. Again, mentalism is my favorite branch of magic. It's what I specialize in. And anything by Richard Osterlund is going to give you a wealth of material to draw from and to work with. I do a number of effects that I've learned from Richard Osterlund. I do not do them his way. I do not present them the way he presents them. But my first performance as a mentalist, my first paid performance, all mentalism, entirely came from Richard Osterlund resources. Okay, that's how important they are. So I want to recommend those to you first and foremost. Again, I'm a mentalist. I favor mentalism. This book is by Max Maven. It's called Prism. It's actually a combination of a series of books. Max Maven published the blue book, the red book, the yellow book, the violet book. He published a series of books after colors, but you can see what I generally do is I'll go through the table of contents and I'll highlight the effects that I want to go back and work on and make part of my repertoire, but I put a brief explanation next to the other effects so that I can look at a glance and see what's, in case I need something to fill a particular need, I'll come back and take a second look. I'll use an asterisk next to things that maybe are interesting, but I don't want to work on immediately. So my books, the books that are in my library are working books. I scribble in them. I write in the margins. I highlight them. I do not dog-ear the pages. By the way, if you have never seen this, a librarian taught me this. A bond of a book can break fairly easily. When you get a brand new book, the first thing you want to do is crack it open and smell it. Oh my good, there's nothing better than the smell of new book. And if you're a book person, you know what I'm talking about. But once you've done that, here's what you need to do to break your books in properly. So set it on the table, flat table like this. Open the covers this way and give it just a gentle rub down the spine. Then take a few pages, open them out, and give it a gentle rub down the spine this way. And keep doing that. Keep doing that until you make your way to the center. Until you make your way to the center. And that will break the book in well. So that's, if you've never done that before, that'll keep the spine from breaking. It'll give you much more life in your books. This book I've had in my library. I mean, in terms of feel, it's practically new. Okay, it's practically new. The pages aren't dog-eared. They're not yellow. They're scribbled in. They're written in. You can see that I've done some writing in the margins. But this book is in good shape, and I've had it since 2005. This is 2020, so I've had it a very long time. You can take good care of your books, and you should. These are investments you're making in your future. Treat them that way. All right, the next book over here, this is called Masters of Mystery. Masters of Mystery by Christopher Sanford. Masters of Mystery by Christopher Sanford. The Strange Friendship of Arthur Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini. By the way, the publisher is Macmillan. So it's not a magic publisher, it's a mainstream publisher. Let me tell you why I appreciate this book. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was a proponent of spiritualism. I personally am a proponent of spiritualism. So you know exactly where I'm coming from ideologically. Most magicians believe that spiritualists are frauds. I take great offense to that. I really do. And many magicians feel that anyone who practices any religion is deluded. I take great offense to that as well. And so did Arthur Conan Doyle. So what you're getting in this book is this relationship. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Houdini were good friends until Houdini began to expose fraudulent mediums. And if you read magic literature, Houdini is often presented as a caped crusader, saving the world from fraud. And many who make this part of their act also present it that way, like they're doing somebody a favor. This book presents the truth, okay? It presents the truth about who Houdini was and what he did, and it's not pretty. And it presents the truth about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So it's refreshing. It's refreshing, and if you're like most magicians, you idolize Harry Houdini. I did, and I do, and I continue to do. Houdini has been described as the great wave that drives the rest of us to the shore. And I appreciate that, and it's true. If it weren't for Harry Houdini, so much would be absent from our culture as performers and magicians. To this day, 2020, you can say the name Harry Houdini, and everybody knows who you're talking about. Everybody knows what he was famous for. Everybody knows some of his basic legends. But when it comes to ideology, and the reason why I recommend this book is the ideology persists today. And by the way, Houdini didn't start it. It goes back Spiritualism was born in the mid-1800s. And not long after that, Alexander made a name for himself, and he became America's premier magician at the end of the 19th century. It was Alexander who began to do exposés in his show and to do spiritualist type effects in his show for entertainment purposes. So I think he was one of the first, if not the first, performer to really take this on. Now, in their defense, there are fraudulent mediums, and shame on them. Shame on them. The religion should never be presented with magical techniques and magical means. It just shouldn't happen. And when somebody presents something as real that isn't, shame on them. They should be exposed. They should be penalized. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater, to turn around and say, well, because I discovered fraud, everything is fraud. That's just we just need a better balance than that. And this book really is refreshing because it shows you Houdini in all his goodness and in all his flaws. And it shows you the sincerity of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and you can evaluate for yourself, because it doesn't advocate for any one ideology over the other. But there is tension, and you should understand that there is tension between the materialist who doesn't believe in anything, the atheist who doesn't believe in anything, and the person who believes, who has a faith of any kind, whether it's Muslim or Jewish or Christian or Wiccan or whatever it might be. There's a tension that exists, and that tension is dealt with in this book. It's part of our community. It's part of our heritage as magicians, and we need each one of us to make a decision about where we stand and what we believe, and this book will help you do that. So I highly recommend it. Once again, Masters of Mystery, The Strange Friendship of Arthur Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini, Christopher Sanford, by Macmillan Press. So please check that out. Now, once again, this is the third reference to mentalism I've made. Again, you're asking me, Calvin, to recommend to you the top 10 on my list. If I knew what kind of magician you are, these 10 would be different. I'm a mentalist, so many of the books I'm going to recommend to you have that disposition. 13 Steps to Mentalism by Corinda. I have frequently been asked, if you go back and look at some of the comments on some of the videos, especially the videos I've done on mentalism, I am frequently asked, where do I start? How do I get started? Well, Prism by Max Maven, Easy to Master Mentor Miracles by Richard Osterlund, and 13 Steps to Mentalism by Corinda. These are must-reads if you want to be a mentalist. In fact, if I had to choose just one, it would be this one. This one is absolutely Mentalism 101. It's indispensable. You cannot, in my opinion, you cannot be. This is the foundation for great mentalism. You cannot, I don't think you can achieve all you want to achieve if you decide to be a mentalist in the absence of this book. That's how important it is. 13 Steps to Mentalism by Corinda. Highly recommended. If you don't already have it in your library, please pick it up. Even if you're a traditional magician, you have no interest in doing mental magic whatsoever, mentalism whatsoever, I highly recommend that book to you. 13 Steps to Mentalism by Corinda. Next on the list, The Show Doctor by Jeff McBride. Again, my emphasis has always been in this series on this channel to encourage you to perform magic. if you are a hobbyist and you're really not interested in performing and you just want to read and you just want to collect, there's nothing wrong with that. Do it. You have my blessing. But my disposition is to want to perform and to perform as much as possible. As you begin to perform, you're going to encounter difficulties and challenges. This book addresses the difficulties and challenges that you're going to face as a live performer. Jeff McBride published a series of articles, monthly articles in Magic Magazine. And by the way, if you've never had that magazine, never subscribed to the magazine, it's a wonderful magazine. It's in the class of Genie. But Jeff did this monthly series designed to help performers improve their performance. There are magical effects in here, but you don't buy this book for the magic that's in it. You buy the book for the assistance you will get in putting your show together, marketing your show, presenting your show. It deals with very basic understandings of performance. He deals with how to cope with nervousness. He deals with spending on magic. We all have a tendency as magicians to spend too much. He deals with that. He deals with methods of rehearsing and practicing. He deals with one of my favorites in here is called the bends. If you've ever done a family show, okay, and you've walked in with your suitcase table and you open your suitcase table and you set all your props up, and now the family's there and you're performing, there's this tendency to bend down and get a prop and bend down and get a prop. And he deals with practical ways to avoid that scenario. So the show doctor, if you read and apply the lessons in this book, your show will improve dramatically. And that's what we're all after, folks. So again, the show doctor, highly recommended. Now, I'm going to cheat. I'm presenting just 10 things to you. I believe there are 8 volumes. So I'm cheating because I'm presenting 8 volumes as one. But if you do not have currently the Tarbell Course in Magic in your library, you're making a big mistake. I'm not the first magician to say it. The Tarbell Course in Magic is absolutely invaluable. It's indispensable. You cannot do without it. No matter what kind of magician you are, if you're a family entertainer, if you're a mentalist, if you're a coin worker, if you're a close-up worker, a restaurant worker, it doesn't make any difference what kind of magician you are. You will find material and you will find lessons and you will find learning in the Tarbell Course in Magic. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you're an up-and-coming magician today, you have an advantage that I never had. I bought this when I was a child. Well, not a child, a teenager. And I read it and I did the best I could with it. Today, you have Dan Harlan over at Penguin Magic doing every trick in the book, literally every trick in the book. He has analyzed it. He presents it on video. He shows you how to do it. He presents techniques and methods that aren't even in the book. Really, really good over at Penguin Magic. But if you don't have this in your library, get it. You won't regret it. 8 volumes, Tarbell Course in Magic. Now, this book right here, it's called the Conjuring Anthology. It's called the Conjuring Anthology by Jim Steinmeier. Again, this is based on a series of articles, a column published in Magic Magazine. Jim Steinmeier also published a monthly column in Magic Magazine, whereas the show doctor was devoted to improving your show and the mechanics of presenting a show. The Conjuring Anthology presented a new magical effect every single month. I'm telling you, Jim Steinmeier is a genius. He's one of the great gifts to our generation. He started his career with Doug Henning. He presented ideas to Doug Henning. Doug Henning loved him. Doug brought him onto the show. That's where he got his start. He's become a historian. He's become an inventor. And this book, look at the size of the book. The book is chock full. The book is chock full of his ideas, one after the other. In terms of the quality of the magic, in terms of the depth and the practicality and the usefulness of the ideas, this is probably number one. I'm telling you what, no matter what kind of magician you are, whether mentalism or platform or whatever, he doesn't have a whole lot of close-up. He does have some, but if you're a platform entertainer, a family entertainer, a mentalist, whatever, this is really going to serve you well. So the Conjuring Anthology by Jim Steinmeier, don't miss it. Another one by Jim Steinmeier, The Secret History of Magic. By the way, I've had this book for sale in my magic shop, and my magic shop's on eBay. It's not a real magic shop. It's not a brick and mortar. I wish it were, maybe someday. But I've had this book for sale, and I've had it marked down. It's not even selling at retail. Nobody's buying it, you know. And I'm not presenting it here to sell it. I'm not. But there are many histories that have been done. This history. I've been asked to do a presentation on Robert Houdin. Robert Houdin is often considered the father of modern magic. There is a lot ascribed to Robert Houdin that he never did. And this book gets into that. By the way, the unmasking of Robert Houdin by Houdini gets into that as well. Houdini, if you don't know, Houdini took his name from Robert Houdin. Houdini means Houdin-like. So Houdini grew up idolizing this man. And when Houdini finally did the research, he was completely disillusioned to find out that many of the legends, and if I asked you to tell me about Robert Houdin, you'd probably give me a legend that you heard or read somewhere that is actually false. Magicians historically have been pretty good at planting ideas in the press, and the press runs with them because they're sensational stories. And so it's often said that it doesn't matter what you do. What matters is what people think you do. And magicians, including Houdini, have lived by that adage, and Robert Houdin lived by that adage, and a lot of the truth is presented in this book. Now, it's not about Robert Houdin. That's a chapter. This is a complete history of magic. What I like about this history, once again, I've alluded to this before, but if you have an ideological disposition where you believe in magic, you believe in real magic, you believe in the real supernatural, you believe in supernatural occurrences, you don't want to be talked down to by people who don't. And a lot of magic histories, because magic, if you're dealing with history, you're going back before the modern magic era, which, you know, you could argue it began with Robert Houdin. It didn't. It began before. But, I mean, you go back to the discovery of witchcraft, and, you know, Reginald Scott was dealing with conjuring effects in that book, trying to get people to stop persecuting witches, because after all, what they were doing is just magic, just conjurer's tricks. That's not true either, but the point is that performance magic has been around a very long time, and if you're dealing with the history, at some point you're getting murky, because you're getting into a historical period where the lines between performance magic and real magic were not so clearly defined. And I would suggest that even in the 19th century, as soon as the 19th century, you have people that you look at them and you look at their performance history, and you know that they were doing some conjuring effects, but there were other things that they were doing that maybe weren't. And so if you're really going to be fair in your history, you have to acknowledge some of that. And this is the only history that does, frankly. And by the way, this was not a magic publisher. You know, magic has its own set of publishers. Magic Words, for example, Mike Caveney, lots of publishing. Easy Magic. You get very Robbins. You get very specific magic publishers, and that's fine. This is a mainstream publisher here, and it's a mainstream history, and it's heavyweight. I mean, I love history that doesn't glamorize or sensationalize. It analyzes the truth. It presents the truth. That's what you're getting here, and it's refreshing. Jim Steinmeier did a stellar job, and Peter Lamont did a stellar job, and I just cannot recommend it more highly. Now, once again, I apologize. Just like when I presented Tarbell, this is 8 volumes. I'm telling you, I'm saying it's one. I'm going to let this represent a class, okay? It's not necessarily the book I want you to run out and buy. It actually happens to be Carter the Great by Mike Caveney is my favorite biography. It absolutely is. This is the most entertaining, informative, insightful biography I've ever read. But what I want to encourage you to do is read biography, okay? Read biography. Read the biographies of the great magicians. If you have an interest in a magician, whether it's Carl Germain or Carter the Great or Harry Houdini or Dunninger, whoever it is you might have an interest in, find a biography and read it. You will learn more from biographies than you will learn from magic books. What you will learn from biographies is you will learn about the choices these people made and how they become who they are. That is so important. Yes, it's important to study secrets. Yes, it's important to learn magic tricks. But don't neglect the other stuff. Read biography. Whatever else you do, read biography. These, by the way, Magic Words is the publisher, and this particular book just happens to be written by Mike Caveney. Mike Caveney is the publisher of Magic Words, but he's also published a series of other books that he did not pen, did not author. And by the way, most of the books that are published by Magic Words are limited edition. I do not, oh, this one is. If you look in the front here, this is number 352 of 1,000. So Mike Caveney only published 1,000 of these. I have number 352. I believe it's still available. But again, Carter happens to be my favorite biography of all time. But I have read, I can't even begin to tell you how many magical biographies I have read. I have an entire library full of magical biographies. Every time I see one come out, whether it's on Amazon or through a magic dealer, I buy it right away. The most recent was Susie Wanda's. Susie Wanda's was a fantastic biography. I mean, it was wonderful. So I highly recommend that to you as well. Now, finally, the last book. This is 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number 10, you probably already guessed it. The Mark Wilson complete course in magic. I can't tell you how many times I've recommended this to you. I recommend it to you again. If you are interested in magic and you do not have this, you're making a big mistake. Go out and buy it today. It is one of the least expensive, it is the least expensive book here on the table. This book is currently selling for, I'm just guessing, I think it's 20 bucks maybe on Amazon. You can also get it on eBay. Go out and get it. I still perform material from this course. I bought, by the way, I didn't have this hard volume when I first got the book. Phil Thomas was selling it at the Yogi Magic Mart. I was a teenager. He told me I had to have it. It was a blue spiral bound vinyl thing that opened flat, and it came with props. And so that's how I first came to the Mark Wilson course. The first shows that I did, some of the first paid shows that I did, most of the material came out of this book. and I still perform many of the effects in this book. So if you don't have it, make sure you get it. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Calvin, thank you so much for making this request. If you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button and please comment down below. I love your comments and I will respond to them. Have a great day.